Dear viewers, Drishti IS presents to you a new program, Editorial Analysis. In this program, we'll analyze editorials published in major English newspapers like Hindu, Indian Express, etc. for effective understanding of students. In this program, we'll mainly focus on three things: establishing link of editorial to UPSC syllabus, understanding the main points of editorial under key points, and discussing important concepts mentioned in editorial or which are necessary to understand the editorial. Hope you all like this new initiative of Drishti IS. Please feel free to give us suggestions and opinions in the comment box. So, starting with today's editorial analysis. Today's editorial has been taken up from Hindustan Times and it is under the heading The Politics of Power in Times of Pandemic. Now, power over here is actually the power sector or electricity, and it talks about the issues being faced by power sector of India in context of COVID-19. In our UPSC syllabus, it is related to GS2 under Government Policies and Interventions for Development in Various Sectors, and under GS3 you can link it with infrastructure because of energy and science and technology because it also talks about the renewable energy and its scope in future. Let's go to the key points. The editorial talks about the slump in electricity demand that we are witnessing due to lockdown, which has been put into force to restrain the spread of COVID-19. Now, because of this lockdown, the entire economic activity of the country has gone down. The power companies, especially the DISCOMs, the distribution companies, are reeling under a demand shock. The supply continues to be the same as before, whereas there is a slump in demand. Because of this, there has been a drop in demand by 25% nationally, and if you see individually, states are reporting drop of 15 to 30%. Now, this drop in demand is because of reduced economic activities. Now, the demand has actually gone down in certain parts, such as in commercial establishments, public institutions, transport, construction, manufacturing. As you all know that these are the units which have come under severe lockdown. So, the entire commercial and industrial hub has put down its demand. This has created load on distribution companies, especially the financial load. And it is worrisome because DISCOMs were previously also reeling from financial stress, as you all remember, because of which the government of India had brought about the scheme named as Uday. So before we move further to see how DISCOMs are reeling under pressure, let's first check how the DISCOMs actually play a part in our energy supply. So this is a simplified diagram of how energy reaches our houses. The energy is first being generated at a power station such as thermal power station or nuclear power station, from where it is transmitted through the transmission lines over long distances. Suppose the power station is in Tamil Nadu and energy has to be supplied to Delhi. So the entire transmission network actually plays this part of moving energy from one part of the country to another part. So this was first stage, this is transmission in second. The third stage is distribution, where the role of DISCOMs come into play. So these DISCOMs actually take the entire electricity load to them, and from there they ensure that the electricity is supplied to different units such as residential consumers or commercial and industrial units, and there is also agriculture. Now what happens while supplying the energy to these three units? It charges electricity per unit lesser from these two units, that is agriculture and residential, and charges higher from commercial and industrial business consumers, because usually the consumers on agriculture and residential units are not financially as strong as the industrial and commercial. So over here the electricity is charged like rupees 2 per unit, and over here also say rupee 1 per unit. But to make up for the loss, suppose DISCOMs were getting energy at rupees 5 per unit from the generators or transmitters. To make up this loss of rupees 2, it will charge the commercial and business units rupees 5 per unit. So as to ensure its sustainability, the charging of electricity at higher rate to commercial and industrial business, it's called cross subsidization of power. These units were actually cross subsidizing the agricultural and household units. However, since these units have closed down and the rise in demand has continued from residential units, so the entire fall of subsidy goes back to the distribution companies, which were already reeling under the financial stress previously also. Let us see the impact of shutdown of commercial and industrial units on discoms. Now, impact of demand shock, because the demand has fallen down from commercial and industrial units. So, what has been its impact? It would put further distress for discoms which were already reeling under financial stress due to, how would it impact? Due to enhanced AT&C losses. We will see this in our key concepts. What are AT&C losses? And electricity supply prices greater than recovery prices. Now, what happened? It continues to receive electricity from generators at same price as before, say rupees 5 per unit. But now industrial units have closed, the recovery price has come down. Now it has only two sources of recovering their prices, that is agriculture and residential. And they were already being cross subsidized. So from here they are able to recover only rupees 3 per unit, both of these combined. So now they are suffering a loss of rupees 2 per unit, which is huge for a sector which was already reeling under financial stress. Now, if you just see the percentage wise distribution, the industry and commercial together account for almost 50% of demand, which has gone down, and hence the cross subsidy. Whereas the agriculture and domestic part, which was being cross subsidized, has increased its demand because everybody is staying put in their homes. So the burden would fall now on discoms to provide for this subsidy. Hence, cross subsidy lost, discoms spending more per unit of electricity supplied need to pay fixed charges to generators. Obviously, generators are going to charge the same amount as before, they are not going to cut down. Hence, they need to continue paying the same charge, but they have lesser income from the places where they were previously getting it. Hence, they would continue to reel under persistent financial losses. Now, there is another impact to discoms because of this entire COVID-19. Because of the lockdown, people are not going out to pay their electricity bills. Hence, billing and collection operations have also shut down. So, they are not recovering their dues even from the places where they are supposed to, that is agricultural and residential. Seeing this, the center had directed a 3 months moratorium on dues to generators. Now, center had asked the generator units and transmission units to delay their receipts from discoms for 3 months at least, except renewable energy generators. However, this would provide only a temporary relief because it's not like that they are waiving off these charges, they are just delaying it. So, it will continue to surge the discoms overdues to generator, which already is pegged at rupees 80,522 crores, and it is going to continue surging further. Now, this additional financial loss which they are going to face because of billing and collection operations and the cross subsidy dying out would not even be passed on to consumers because they cannot do that. These were the consumers who were being cross subsidized, so you cannot pass it. This will increase the regulator assets charges also, which is already rupees 77,000 crore in 2019. Currently, they are not charging anything extra from consumers, but if they continue to mount their dues, eventually the regulator may in future allow those charges to be compensated from consumers. It includes previously incurred losses, that is what discoms are incurring now due to deferred expenditure that can be recovered from consumers. So they can get it from consumers in future provided allowed by regulatory authority. So this is what is called regulatory asset. Now, what can be the possible outcomes of such a distress on discoms? The sector would need another bailout after Uday, that is Ujjwal Discom and Assurance Yojana. You know, this scheme was being run by government to help the discoms from 2015. It had already run its course and we are already talking about Uday 2.0 to help discoms further. However, apart from this, the sector would need another huge bailout. However, who would provide the bailout? The government, who's already reeling under fiscal stress. You all know, because of lockdown, the government is also not getting enough receipts. Along with that, it also has the burden of stimulus packages that it has to provide the relief to different sectors and different section of populations. So there might be a scene where no action is taken, and if such a thing happens, it would impede the reliable electricity supply that we have been getting till now. And even in future, as the economic activity turns back, to reboot the economy, whatever electricity you would need, the supply might be impacted. What are the insights for future? This huge scenario provides certain insights for future for the discoms and government and the entire power sector to learn from. First, it provides a test case of impending load migration to renewable energy. Obviously, whatever load can be shifted to renewable energy should be shifted by now. You can see the two scenarios playing out over here. The renewable energy costs have fallen because of advanced technology, and high-paying consumers may move off the central grid from where electricity is being generated right now. If industry doesn't cross-subsidize agriculture and households, suppose the industry remains shut for another 6 months and it doesn't cross-subsidize agriculture and households, the government would have to chip in to provide low-cost renewable energy directly to the poor through capital subsidy. Now we are providing subsidy on bill. We are charging them lesser rupee per unit as compared to commercial units. So rather than subsidizing their bills or their usage charges, why not subsidize their capital? That is solar pumps, solar panels, solar agricultural feeders, thus reducing subsidy burden on discoms. Crisis also creates impetus to find technology fixes to disruption in system operations. Now we have been talking about the huge AT and C losses to discoms. Now half of these losses are due to the rundown and old machinery and technology, because of which the operational costs increased for the discoms. So if we can find technological fixes to this operating system cost, then we can bring down the AT&C losses for discoms. So another possibility can be integrating RE, that is renewable energy, in the main grid, the central grid. Now we have desisted from integrating renewable energy in our main power grid because there have been huge fluctuations. Now there are days when the sun doesn't shine, there it's cloudy, and hence you might not get enough solar energy, and during that day if there is a peak in demand, how would you compensate for that? So the variations in demand and supply cannot be taken by the central unit. However, when the recent event of April 15 was called by our Honorable Prime Minister, which was called Diya Jalao, the lights out call or the Diya Jalao call, the entire country had shut down their light bulbs. That event actually tested grid balance under sudden demand variation. The demand variation on that particular day for that event was around 27%, that is of 31 gigawatts, which is huge. Now, if our central grid system can take care of such a huge variation, then obviously it can take care of the variations through renewable energy. So it provides a test case for us to try and integrate renewable energy in the grid. Now smart meters are being put to assess the losses to discom. These can be used for billing and collection if people cannot go out and pay their bills. It also provides a case for shift from centralized electricity system. Right now we have a central grid system. However, if we have many grids, that is decentralized power system, rather than reaching one place, then it is better for energy transition because there is faster energy transition and it is operationally resilient also. That is, there would be lesser operational cost and it will be able to better handle the variations in energy supply and demand. So network of decentralized system can be worked upon. Now let's see the key concepts. We talked about the Uday scheme. The government has brought about the Uday scheme for helping discoms with their huge losses. Now what is this scheme? The scheme is being run by Ministry of Power and it commenced on 5th November 2015. It provides for the financial turnaround or financial stimulus from the state governments to revive discoms working under the state governments. Now all the discom units, that is distribution companies, are state run. That is why they are able to cross subsidize agriculture and household units. So it's the state governments that can help revive discoms. It is optional for the states to join. Now this point is important because Uday is not mandatory for the states. It will be operationalized through tripartite agreement amongst Ministry of Power, because it is run by Ministry of Power, the state government and the discom, all the three stakeholders. The scheme will run in an integrated approach among Ministry of Power, Ministry of Coal and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. What are the components of the scheme? The 75% of discom's debt. As we spoke, the debts were around rupees 80,522 when we just saw. So 75% of these debts were supposed to be taken up by the state governments, and they would take care of it through issuing sovereign bonds to pay back the lenders. The remaining 25%, 75% is being taken up by states. The 25% would be taken up by DISCOMs themselves, but in the form of bonds. So 75% was through sovereign bonds of states, that is state bonds, and 25% through DISCOM bonds. Now, what is a bond? We are talking about bond. A bond is a debt instrument in which an investor loans money to an entity. Now, suppose I am in crisis and you are person B. I am person A and I need a support of rupees 50. I would give you a bond, a paper saying that I would give you back rupees 55 after a certain day if you give me rupees 50 now. So you would give me rupees 50, you would become the lender and I would become the debtor, and I would be paying you after a certain period, say after 2 months, rupees 55 in place of rupees 50 that you gave me now. The bond is a debt instrument in which an investor loans money, that you become the investor and you are loaning the money to an entity, typically a corporate or government. Corporates or governments borrow the funds for a defined period of time at variable or fixed interest rate. Another component of the scheme was reduction in AT&C and transmission losses. We kept talking about the AT&C losses and also in transmission losses. That is, the losses DISCOMs are incurring when they're supplying further to the industrial or household units. Now, this would be brought through energy efficiency measures such as efficient LED bulbs, agricultural pumps, etc. Now, let us see what are these AT&C losses. The DISCOMs suffer from aggregate technical and commercial losses. Now, what is this? The technical losses are due to flow of power in transmission and distribution system. The diagram we saw that from generator it is going to transmitters and then to DISCOMs and then to consumers. So when the electricity flows from 1 point to 2 and 2 to 3 and further on, there is a flow of power, and because of this there is some power loss, that is around 25% power is lost. However, the DISCOM had received 100% power, but it lost out on 25% of power. So this is AT&C loss. Now, commercial loss. In AT&C losses, C stands for commercial loss. So it is due to theft of electricity, deficiency in metering, because of which the government is now putting smart meters across all the units. Let us quickly see what is the energy mix in India. We are talking about shifting to renewable energy. So first, what are the renewable energy targets? That it is 175 gigawatts of renewable capacity by 2022. Currently, India's installed capacity is 369 gigawatts as of January 2020, in which renewable energy accounts for 86.3 gigawatts. Now you can see we are targeting 175 gigawatts by 2020, but right now in 2020 we have only 86.3 gigawatts. So that's a huge shortfall to be filled up. In renewable energy, solar and wind right now accounts for 31.7 and 37 respectively. Biomass in small hydropower constitute 9.8 and 4.6. And off-grid, the energy which can't be integrated to grid, that is waste to energy, biomass gasifiers, etc., stood at 139 megawatt and 9806 megawatt respectively. So as you can see in the diagram, we are targeting 175 gigawatts, of which 40 gigawatts has to come from rooftop solar and 60 gigawatts from solar photovoltaic. So 100 gigawatts has to come from solar, 60 from wind, and rest from small hydro and biomass. Right now, what are the power generation by source? From coal, we are getting 74% of energy, another 9% from hydro, natural gas 5%. So this is all for editorial analysis for today. Thank you.